Hey everyone, it's me, CGF Hotshot. Who wants to complain about events? It sounds like a fun time, right? There's never not going to be a time where complaining about an event, but like events in general, like it won't be topical because DC keep doing some sort of event or crossover. And whilst they are two separate types of things, for the sake of this video, we are kind of lumping the two concepts into one. So an event book is like Dark Crisis. A crossover is like War for Earth 3. That's how we're characterizing it. But for the sake of the video, we are kind of like fusing the two concepts into one because they serve the same purpose for DC, which is like, bringing random sorts of heroes together in order to stop a big threat. And, you know, let's just talk about it, because I want to complain. Yeah. I think we can start with quite the obvious. The casts are too big to develop and characterize all the characters properly. Because there is going to be no writer, be it at Marvel or DC. By the way, this is going to be just DC we're talking about, but let's assume most of the points apply to Marvel, because I can't be dealing with, like, the other half of the events. So let's just assume that it applies to Marvel too, and if it doesn't, oops. But yeah, sometimes the casts are just too big to characterize and develop, and you're not capable of getting a writer who fundamentally understands every character at DC Comics. Mark Waid says himself that, of all the DC characters, he has a bit of like a disconnect with Wonder Woman. I kind of have that too with Wonder Woman and Aquaman. But he does, but to be fair, Mark Waid does make good attempts to characterize Wonder Woman properly anyway, at least from what I know. And no, you can argue about that if you want. But there's always going to be a certain, like, lack of confidence. So what you'll see is that writers will always go for, like, the same three characters that they know really well. Normally it's like normally for event books, because all of the event books are by Flash writers, it's like the Flash, Superman, and either Batman or Green Lantern. Those are like the three. And it depends on which Flash is in the event, which Green Lantern's in the event, you know. But the casts are too big, and you get to the point where it's just like, you can't develop them. And it's kind of no point in developing them, because they have their own books for that. Especially the bigger characters like, again, Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, Green Lantern, and the Flash. Like, they always have their own books, so it'd be kind of like counterproductive to say Batman's most important story this year in 2005 is Infinite Crisis, because it isn't. I don't know what Batman's biggest story in 2005 was, because I didn't read 2005 Batman books, but I can guarantee it's not Infinite Crisis. So yeah, and it's just like too big. And you also have to like juggle like a bunch of tie-ins where there's just like a bunch of risks of heads kind of clashing. So you'll have one version of, let's say, Barry Allen over here and another version of Barry Allen over here. You know, it's like a bit of a disconnect. I will also say another big thing is, because these are big events, and these are DC, especially DC's cash cow comics, these are how DC kind of keep running half the time, I think. It's like, this is what brings in the most revenue of the comics of the year. DC have an incentive of heavily editorially mandating it to make sure everything goes off without a hitch. That also means you get editorial meddling. For example, Dark Crisis and Black Adam. Why does everyone have a Black Adam power up at the end? It's because a fucking film was coming out. It wouldn't have happened if the Black Adam didn't have a film that month. It just wouldn't have. And so, rereading Dark Crisis now, especially, it's just like, why are they all powered up with Black Adam's powers? Like, you know. And also, it kind of like goes against sometimes the event's prerogative. We're going back to Dark Crisis here. We'll talk about War for Earth 3 in a bit. But like in Dark Crisis specifically, there's the idea of wanting to make a new JLA. Who's going to be the new roster of the JLA? That's what Dark Crisis 0 set up. The Zero issue that was free, that is used to sell people on the event, is who should be on the JLA. And then they decided, nuh-uh, it's gonna be the Titans. And, oh boy, actually, let's just not talk about that. But you know what I mean. You also kind of get this with Flashpoint, I will say. Jeff Johns just wanted to make a Batman Barry Allen fanfiction set in an alternate timeline that Barry Allen created. And instead, Dan DiDio said, oh, you need to reboot the universe here. And then after that, Jeff quit The Flash and started Justice League. It was the first of many times Jeff Johns left projects underbaked. Yeah. You know, we're not going to criticize that now. I'll also say, events and crossovers often interrupt books mid-story so that they can tie in. A big one that we see is War for Earth 3. War for Earth 3. So we'll also get into this in my Adams Flash retrospective, where Jeremy Adams was forced to cut Flash Eclipse short. It was supposed to have an extra issue in it, but he had to cut it short so that Flash 780 could tie into War for Earth 3. It was such an underbaked, a last-minute crossover that they didn't even have the writer fully tapped for the Flash part, because I think they were going to have Matthew Rosenberg or whoever was doing the Titan part, Suicide Squad parts of War for Earth 3. I think they were going to have him do the Flash issue, but it ended up being Jeremy Adams because they had to cut his arc short. Also, I will say, probably for the best, because it means we kind of get consistency from Jeremy Adams. So it does kind of interrupt that story, although weirdly not in The Flash. They just kind of phase it in where it's just alright, Wally goes home and then he has to deal with something else the next day. It feels like that's just a part of the hero lifestyle. But it does happen like that. Ooh, an event that does remind me of this. Dark Knight's Metal, in Joshua Williamson's Flash run, they were going through the negative Flash arc, where Barry Allen had powers from the negative Speed Force. You know, the Eobard Thorns one. And in the middle of that arc, they had to do the Dark Knight's Metal tie-in. And in Dark Knight's Metal, Barry Allen does not have the negative Speed Force powers. So it's just abruptly interrupts the arc. And it's just by the way, here's the issue where Barry Allen races Superman. And it's just you can see that this was kind of a bit rushed. I don't know. A bit rushed together. Just the Flash needs to tie into this because we need to do a whole thing. You know? Okay, also, with events being as they are, they have to either have big end of the world stakes, or have the idea be that it's something so cataclysmic, so close to home that it brings either the whole hero community together, or the specific heroes that are tied into the event together. Or you just, whoever's dealing with stuff right then. I don't know. But generally with events, big events, it has to either be big enough for everyone to get involved, or so close to the hero community for them to get involved. Which means, the biggest idea that's normally done, multiversal events, and specifically, we are going to change what the current status of the multiverse is. Of course, this was a very popular idea with Crisis on Infinite Earths, where they killed all the Earths, and then I think Zero Hour didn't create Hyper Time, but it kind of retconned a bit of the universe so that Hawkman was a little more consistent. Do not quote me on that. And then we have Infinite Crisis, which the point of was just we're gonna have a multiverse of 52 Earths, hence the 52 Earth multiverse stayed on. Final Crisis was threatening the multiverse because Darkseid's a multiversal threat now. Convergence multiverse. Dark Knight's Death Metal decided it's not a multiverse anymore, it's an omniverse. Because the idea is that the multiverse is so large, the current state of the multiverse is so large, it branches so much that it needs a bigger word, because it's the idea that everything can happen, time is fluid, the universes are fluid, they can merge, they can combine, and then 2 years later, a year and a half actually, a year and a half after Death Metal, where the idea is the status quo of the DC universe is that now it's larger than a multiverse. It's an omniverse. It's a multiverse again. They brought back the Infinite Earths, which I thought were already brought back with the implications of the Omniverse. So it's just the multiverse with extra steps. It's the Omniverse with extra steps. What was the point in calling it the Omniverse? That's what I want to know. What was the point of that if you were just going to change it a year later? Because, like, this was clearly planned. Like, Joshua Williamson goes into Infinite Frontier with the idea that we're going to lead to Crisis 22. Like, he gets off of death metal because he, like, was part of the team with Scott Snyder. The idea is he is going to work towards Dark Crisis. And then the pin drops. It's Dark Crisis on Infinite Earths. And I'm just like, that is such a lazy title. It's lazier than Dark Crisis. Because at least Dark Crisis just thinks, it's just the Crisis this year. Dark Crisis on Infinite Earths just like, you just want to be as big as the one, as the event. So yeah. Or, you do a murder mystery, which historically hasn't worked either time. Now here's the thing. Heroes in Therapy, great idea. The mystery around it, terrible. Like, that was a warning from the start, you know? But I will also say, this also kind of links in with oversaturation. In the time span of 1 year, in a time span of, let's say, 1 year, from March to March, we have business crossovers and events because they serve similar purposes in DC's schedule. We have War through Earth 3, Trial of the Amazons, and Shadow War all take place in spring of 2022. Then we have Dark Crisis, and then Lazarus Planet throughout summer, autumn, winter, and then into 2023. So it's just like, the world is ending all the time at this point. So what's the point? Why couldn't we just had the Mystics reset during Dark Crisis? Why couldn't that have been the point of Dark Crisis? I don't know. I really don't know. And then there's also like all the other Batman events, where it's just like, oh, here's a death in the family. We have Green Lantern Lights Out. We have Joker War. We have Fear State. Fear State was probably the most pointless one, if you to ask me, because what the hell is Fear State? I was just interrupting a Nightwing run that already wasn't going anywhere. But, you know. Also, there is, obviously, once in a blue moon, to make sure that the event is the event. They kill characters and damage their reputation. I will not mention the events that do this. I'm just gonna show them on screen and just assume you know what I mean. Because at this point, if you don't know, look for it yourself. I don't know. But yeah, all in all though, what I will say is that no matter what happens in an event, what normally happens is that the tie-in with The Flash, like, be it a disappointing event, a horrid event where the Flash like crumbles, somehow the tie-ins are somehow still good. I don't know how that happens. I don't know how that happens, but it does. Even happened with Night Terrors. Oh my god, I forgot about Night Terrors. Night Terrors was this summer. They literally delayed every book for Night Terrors to do this event thing. Like this was in the middle of Dawn of DC, and he decided July and August. What we're gonna do is make a horror event in not autumn. Yes, that sounds sound. And like the Flash tie-ins are still good. And specifically, I will also say, trust Jeremy Adams tie-ins. Like if you see Jeremy Adams do some sort of tie-in for an event, they're always good. Dark Crisis, he did the Flash runs and Hawk Girl. And for Night Terrors, he did Green Lantern. He had made Green Lantern tie into Night Terrors. Bear in mind, Green Lantern was only 2 issues in at the time. So yeah, no matter what, there's always going to be at least one good tie-in that I will read. That always kind of inspires confidence. I don't know. But anyway, until next time, people, peace out.